are. So, you describe to me the spaceship that you pilot.
Oh God. So we haven't really completely nailed that one down yet. But I mean, my vision for it has always been kind of more the sleek, modern sci-fi rather than like the janky, like old school Star Wars and like old school Star Trek vibes, but like the more modern, sleek, sexy design.
Okay.
Um, yeah. Although who knows how it looks at this point with how cracked out Lamari has gotten thanks to Tolk.
I don't know why, but I envision like the clip art, like spaceship, where it's like a cylinder with like 3 feet and then like a point kind of ship. Just because
I
it's
think that's
very Lamari.
yeah.
So, so as you're piloting the ship, Tolk opens up a wormhole, and then before you even have a chance to brake, your ship goes through it, and then it just lands in front of this building. Everything is like smoky and dark, and there's like lightning bolts around the area, but the building in front is a very uh, lit up, styling, flashy building that says Dead End on it. And in the distance, you start hearing a Spanish guitar playing, and it's very festive here. Uh, Before you have a chance to really take anything in your cockpit, you hear Lamari say,
You've arrived at your destination. Welcome to Muerto City.
"What is your reaction?"
This is my reaction before or after I strangled Tolk.
Tulk is he's like doing a shit-eating grin, and he's gotten into a shadow, and you just see his smile. He's like, "Your turn."
God, that is so on brand. Yeah, I mean, I think at that point, like, I have no choice but to just get in there and get my feet wet figuratively, you know? And that really is the dynamic of those two just leading me off into places I never thought I would go and just having to cope with it.
You're like, "Wow, well, I hope I don't die, Tulk."
Right? Yep, this might as well be happening.
He's like, "Can any of you at least tell me if the air is breathable, please?"
Yeah, like just something, just give me a little nugget of anything. No? Okay.
Okay, so now you are in the studio. I'm there. You're in front of me, and we'll get started on the interview. Welcome to the Den and Amigos. I'm your host, Mariachi Loki. Today we have the third and final crew member of the Outer Reaches, known as the Prince, spreading goodness and kindness, happiness, in fact, to the rest of the universe. Happened to come in here through a chaotic anomaly, navigated by the one and only Lamari. Please welcome TheSubrosa.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome to madness ensuing.
Truly. It's just a day ending in Y.
Another day.
Yes.
Okay, so the first question I have for you is, why did you get start VTubing?
So the very short version of that is I actually initially didn't want to VTube, changed my mind, decided to do it, did it, and now I would never do anything different. Because initially my first impression of VTubing felt like it didn't really it felt like something I couldn't mesh with what I wanted to do with my stream. So it's like, oh, that's not really for me. But then as I got exposed to more and more VTubers and got to see like the diversity of ideas and concepts and personalities, I was like, oh, I can actually do what I want to do and this thing. So then I just leapt on that because I had no desire of ever like having my face on my channel because my day job is as a therapist and I work with children and teenagers, aka people who know what Twitch is.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I wanted to just stay a disembodied voice. But yeah, once I really got to know that like my initial impression of VTubing was just a small slice of that pie. It was like, oh shit, I can do this. And now it's like I get frustrated when I can't have my VTuber model up because my poor laptop can't do the model and the game at the same time. So that's
Wow,
where I'm at.
you too? What is up with
Mhm.
VTubers and laptops? Like that seems to be the thing now.
I don't know.
Everyone's
I
on
don't
a
know.
laptop.
But I am getting a tower
Let's
that's
go.
coming next month. I finally I so my goal had been I'm going to save up for it over next year, and by the end of next year I'll have a new gaming tower. But then my laptop was like, LOL, I'm just going to stop working in the middle of your Witcher stream. And I'm like, "Oh,
No.
okay. Okay."
Oh,
Yeah,
I
so
feel that.
it served me very loyally up to this point, but it is, I think, time for it to retire. So,
It's like, thank you, co-pilot. It's time for you to rest
yep,
forever.
exactly.
So coming back to the reason why you started VTubing,
Mhm.
do you really feel like if your patients or would know that you are a streamer, would the relationship be completely different?
It would be necessarily different. It's just so as a therapist, it's weird because your clients do get to know you, right? Like it's
Mm-hmm.
hard not to. You're having a relationship with them in which you are talking and working through their problems. Um but there is that degree of separation where like I know so much about my clients. Like I know and I mean, there are obviously things that they keep even from their therapist because if they didn't, I would be concerned. You should always have at least a couple secrets from your therapist. That's just like baseline. Um, but they don't get to know as much about me. Like they don't like they might know like I have cats, or they might ask like, "Oh, do you have kids?" And I'm like, oh, "Hell no." Um,
You
you know,
are
so
all
they
my kids. I
right,
have
exactly.
enough.
I don't best birth control, work with children. Um but yeah, so like they don't get to know like what I'm like in a lot of ways and what I'm into and things like that. So there's a degree to which like keeping my life separate from them is really important because it's a weird balance of like they have to recognize that I'm a human person but also not. Like they can't know that I have a life, you know?
Okay.
For me, like keeping that separated is really important. Like I would handle it because like I've had people track me down on social media before, back when I used to like work with like college age kids, and I had to be like, hey, like you can't friend me on Facebook. I'm sorry. You know, so those conversations would be things that I would have around like boundaries with that of like, listen, you can't be watching my streams, you can't be coming in here. And if that is going to be a continued issue, then we need to discuss transferring you to a different clinician because that's not appropriate.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, so that's just where that degree of separation is really important for the therapeutic relationship.
That makes sense. Well, I'm glad that you know how to handle that kind of situation, because for people who don't do therapy or things like that, but like in general, if say if it was one of my clients that I do their yard and they're just like, oh, by the way, like they start telling me yard stuff in the middle of my stream, I'm like, yo, like what the fuck, man? Like I don't need that. First off, you could send me a message. You have my number. What
Right.
the fuck, dude?
Right. Yeah, like not time or place, not here, please.
Like I'm on a show. Like yeah, I get it. I totally get it. Like it's not the appropriate time or place to be doing anything like that, unless it's
Right.
like, hey, you're doing great, or uh, you kind of messed up on that killer part. They're just giving you critique. There, it's like, oh, you shouldn't have hit that box. You totally botched it. That's
Exactly.
cool, but like, yeah, don't
Yeah.
don't don't bring up other things I do in the middle of my stream.
Right. Unless it's like I was a fool and was like I got the idea from Lewis XTR Sunburn on Twitch, where he had random gaming facts, and I think I poor guy. That was the way I would announce my presence on his stream, was I would redeem that point redeem.
Mm-hmm.
So I got random psychology facts on there. So that's about as much as I'm willing to kind of like talk about my work on stream in that regard. Is like I'm always happy to basically translate the research and that kind of like not really gate kept information, but it's just there's a barrier between like the layperson and people in the field, that I think my field needs to like continue working on. So that's like my way of like, here, let me disseminate information so you guys can learn about this stuff because it's important.
Yeah, even so, like some of the most important things that we ought to know is never taught in high school.
Exactly.
Instead, we have like the Pythagorean theorem and like dividing fractions, because I do that every day.
Right, but you're never taught how to make an omelet or something like that. That's supposed to be something
No.
you learn at home.
Or how to take care of myself mentally and emotionally. No, it's
right.
I can do like fucking fractions up the ass, but I can't figure out how to control myself.
Right, exactly. Although I will say, as someone who works with kids and teens, I am seeing a shift in that trend, that they are doing a lot more social emotional learning in schools than they ever have. So
Oh, at least we were just the guinea pigs. I'm
yes.
glad that the future is better.
Yes, they are doing so much better with that. So I'm like, keep going. We can do this.
I'm so glad when my child could come up to me and be like, "Dad, you have a problem." It's like, no shit, child. Have you thought of seeing a therapist? It's like, I have your mother. I don't need a therapist.
I love it.
So, back to another question I have for you. So, what is the lore and history behind the name Subrosa?
Right. So, as with all of my answers, as I'm sure you're already starting to learn, it's convoluted.
What was the process?
So, I stole it from my favorite book series ever. It's called Sandman Slim. It is by Richard Kadrey. If you're ever looking for a good urban fantasy read, I highly recommend it because I feel like it does a really good job of being a metaphor for people recovering from PTSD,
Okay.
and reintegrating back into their lives and like what happens after the trauma. So it's really good. But Subrosa refers to the essentially the magical society that exists in that world. So it's similar to Harry Potter in that like the magical and mundane coexist, but they don't overlap a whole lot, except it's not as like malicious about keeping it separate. Like there are people in the mundane world who know about the magical world, and this is just not common knowledge. And so I just really liked that. And my original vibe and aesthetic for the channel was a lot more witchy and magical. But I have since obviously migrated away from that, and I just kind of refused to change it. But the name itself, Subrosa, in Latin means under the rose, and it is a reference to a myth about Cupid giving roses to the god of silence, whose name I'm blanking on, for him to protect Venus's secrets. So a lot of times in like banquet halls or even confessional booths, if you see roses, that's the idea behind it, is that like whatever is said in this space is kept secret and confidential. So that's the long-winded explanation.
Holy shit, my brain is exploding. That makes sense.
So in case you hadn't noticed, I'm the overthinker of the Outer Reaches.
Yes, we were talking to the brain of the Outer Reaches. Apparently, as I quote, the one brain cell holding everyone together. So that's the history behind your name. Do you have any like lore specific about your VTuber?
So yes and no. Like it's still very much a work in progress, which I think that will always be the case, and I love that aspect of it, honestly. But yeah, so initially my VTuber was just like a blank slate because I was just like, eventually when I was more on the fence about VTubing or not, Limari I think could kind of sense that and was like, hey, do you want me to make you a model? And I was like, okay. Like just very uncertain about it. But I threw out like an idea. She hit me back with like, oh, like this, and I was like, yes, exactly like that. And so initially Rosa was literally like, it's the same model, but like the uniform was literally just like a like Japanese schoolgirl uniform.
Okay.
That was a little more masculine in presentation because my inspiration was Kashima from Nozaki-kun. where I was like, I want that like princely female character. And so that was kind of where it started, was just like that. And then I think as Lamari and Tolk were like building on their own ideas, I was like, oh, I kind of like want to start leaning into the magical thing that I was thinking. And then I don't know how the hell it happened, but I was like, magical in space. Space?
Space magic space makes
Yep.
sense.
Yep. So that's how I landed on the space theme, was just like this weird convoluted line. Um, I'm clearly a very decisive person, as you can tell. But yeah, so it's really just kind of at this point, you know, the lore is that Lamari and I were out in space, and one day we bumped into Tulk, and things have never been the same since. But my model's overall mission is to spread kindness and goodness throughout the universe. And so that's really like, I mean, I have an outro of be brave, be good, be kind. And that is like basically our mission, is spreading that vibe everywhere we go.
And I mean, we're not in space, but we're just a completely different dimension. But
Yeah.
do you feel like with everyone that comes into your chat, you're basically traveling to different planet to planet and getting to know them and spreading the word of kindness and happiness to them?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I very much try to foster and instill that in my community, that like this is what we want to do and be. And if we're seeing people being negative or harsh either with themselves or other people, we call it out, but we call it out in a very gentle way. um like I've had times where I've had to be like, hey guys, like let's not talk like that, and they're like, oh shit, sorry. You know, so, and it's actually kind of funny because I have some people who refer to me as their mom and some people who refer to me as their dad. That's just non-binary goals, I guess. But yeah, so I think that they look to me as like, okay, like you're setting the example and like my role model in that way, like not like I'm gonna base my life off of you, let's not get crazy, but it's, you know, like they see that conduct, and so they understand that that's the same standards that I hold myself to, I want to hold my community to. And so they really do try to embody that as much as possible. So yeah, I feel like every person I come into contact with, like I'm trying to inspire them to have similar ideals of just like, we just all need to be kind to each other. Like the world is hard enough out there without us being dicks to each other. So just be nice. Just be nice. It takes no effort. You can do it.
And there you go. You've heard the word of the outer reaches from the prince himself. So, I mean, to be fair, you are the prince of the I keep want to saying clan, but like the outer reaches. So I feel like if anyone has any authority to be like, hey guys, like let's chill out on this, like it would be you. So
it's very sweet that you think I have any authority.
well, I mean, you have the vibe, you got the outfit, and you know, you command a ship, and so if there's any more reason to not listen to you, I don't know why.
Fake it until you make it, baby.
There you go. So what kind of content do you provide or wish to provide?
So I am very much the I'm gonna play what I want to play vibe. Obviously I have some channel redeems for games that I don't really want to do or play for the shiggles of it, because everybody loves provoking me. Um, but yeah, like I very much don't want to play games that I'm not finding some enjoyment in, because like even the games that I'm like okay, like I have a demon there to force me to play Gwent in Witcher 3 for 2 hours and nothing else. I'm not allowed to do any other side quests or anything like that, just play Gwent. It's like I still find enjoyment in it because I can have that banter with like other people, whether they're like actively on the stream with me or if they're in my chat. Because my vibe that I really try to push is very much like we're friends hanging out on the couch, like playing video games together. Because a lot of my like best memories of being a kid was doing that with my brother Matt, who's also a streamer. And so that's like what I try to bring. So I think genre wise lean more. I'm very similar to Tolk in that like we both love horror. Even though I am the biggest baby, and if you have watched any stream of me playing a horror game, I scream the entire time. Like
Oh, when I'm in the outer reaches, I hear a scream and I'm just like, oh, it must be Subrosa.
Yeah, basically every time you hear a scream, that it's me, I'm the one screaming. So yeah, but I very much just kind of go with whatever I am interested in doing and hope that other people like it. So I branch out into like little indie games. Like we recently played If Found, which actually made me cry. Because it was just so gut wrenching and like in a good way. It ended in a positive note. Don't worry. It's yeah, like being able to explore that, or doing like walking simulators, where there's just like a lot of emotional storytelling. I feel very free to do that, as well as, oh my god, I'm gonna die.
Which there's a lot of that in Dead by Daylight.
Yes. Oh god, there's so much of that.
So you touched on this a little bit. You didn't draw your current model. I'm guessing you didn't rig it either.
Oh god, no. I have no skill in any of that. So please don't ask me how to do any of that. Like, go talk to Lamari. That's what I have.
So Lamari was your rigger as well?
Yes. Lamari has done everything for me. And every time I'm like, oh, it'd be cute if I had this. She's like, oh, bet. And just does it. And I'm like, Lamari. She's like, what?
So with your current model, are you planning on adding more to it?
So I would actually eventually like to, very similar to Tolkien Lamari, move to the live 2D. It's just more of, I think I move at a slower pace for integrating new features compared to them. Like they both jumped on OBS and I was like, oh, I'm gonna stay with Streamlabs for a little bit longer. I'm like,
That's what I know.
Yeah, exactly what I know. Stay in my comfort zone for a little bit and then branch out when I feel ready for that. Or like my focus has been more like, I feel like I did things more piecemeal than they did. Like they went to like the same artists to do like overlays, alerts, panels, this, that, and the other thing. And like I at first did a lot of it myself or found free resources. So I was very slow to change it. And now it's like I have a different artist that I went to for my alerts. I have a different person that I got my overlays from. I have separate artists doing different emotes for me. My panels are all still my own jank ones that I made myself. But like there is that element of like, I'm just doing this in little bits and pieces. Whereas they're like, fuck it, we're gonna redo the whole damn thing. And I'm like,
like my brain.
That fills me with so much anxiety. I can't even.
I wonder if it was just like a quick little interaction that Tolk said, and then Lamari's like, I'm gonna run with it. And you're just like, no, please, my ship.
Pretty much. They just, one of them will say something and then the other just goes whole hog on it. And they're like, you too? And I'm like, not yet.
Please don't remove my chair on my ship. I like my chair.
I like where it's positioned.
It's like, but what if it was more to the left?
What if it was 3 inches to the left? And I'm the sort of person who would notice that too. That's the worst part. Like you could change something like that and I'd be like, this isn't right. I can't tell what exactly is wrong, but this isn't right. What did you do?
And you just have Tolk and Lamari just grinning. And like 100%. A wall is like, fixed it?
Yeah, no, 100%. Or it's a case of like they have done something and messed everything up and try to quickly like fix it before I come back, and they still managed to put something just slightly off, and they did it knowingly, just to see if I will notice and if I will get upset.
Which more than times you do.
Yes. Unfortunately, I am a very reactive person.
Your strong suit.
Yes. Yeah, we'll go with that.
Did you debut?
No. Nope. I very much like Tolk. I was just like, one day, not doing it. Next day, hey, we're going to try this out. I did it.
I see. Do you have any plans on debuting?
No.
No.
This is where it's really funny because I did listen to Tolk's interview and he's like, yeah, now that I know more about VTubing, like I think I'm gonna do that like when I do my 2D model and I was like, oh cool, I love that for him. But
For
I'm just
me.
like, but I don't know. No, I don't like when I changed the model over to something different, like going into the Space Prince vibes. I was just like, hey guys, I got a new model. Tune in tonight to see it. And then boom, it was there. That was about as much as effort as I was willing to do for it. And even with like the thought of like, okay, I'm going to be doing like a live 2D model. It'll be all snazzy. Blah, 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 blah. No, it's just going to be there. You're just going to, I'm there. Deal with it.
I mean, to be fair, you are a prince. You're not used to, promoting it yourself. That's why you give it to Lamari. Lamari will promote you. Here, Lamari,
Probably.
here's this email. Spam it to anyone and everyone. It's
Right?
like, okay, I can do that.
Yeah, no. I'm sure Lamari will be like, hey, like, what if you did like? That's the thing is like, and that's what I love about the outer reaches. Like, is I feel like each of us bring our own strengths to the table, and that helps each of us continue to grow as streamers and as people, honestly, because like they are also like personally very close to me. Like I view Tolk as like my little brother that I never had, and now I want to like drop kick across the room. And then like Lamari is like my sweet little angel who can never do anything wrong.
And
Except
just
for what she does.
and then just like repaints the ship, and you're just like, this isn't the color I wanted.
Yeah. No, with Lamari, it's so funny because it's like with Tolk, I expect him to be a shithead, right? Like I fully anticipate he's gonna do something to upset me at some point. That's just a given. But when Lamari does it, I'm like, Lamari, Lamari.
It's like, I'm sorry, I didn't know I inverted the controls.
Yeah. And then I feel the panic rise in Lamari of like, oh no, I upset Mama. While also giggling like a goblin with Hulk.
I just feel like there is a comic waiting to happen with these three unique characters.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what story comes out, because
Oh, me too.
just from this alone, I could just imagine what shenanigans in anime would happen.
Oh yeah, right.
So who was your inspiration for VTubing?
I don't know actually. I guess honestly Lamari would probably be the closest that I have to that. Because Lamari was like the very first VTuber that I met that was not doing like the lewd tubing stuff. Because while I am like be horny on main, get that coin, I'm very sex positive. There was a reason why there was like 2 to 3 months where people kept asking about ass play on my channel.
Oh my god!
Yeah, no, it became such a running bit. But I was like, yeah, like consensual, safe ass play. Go forth and conquer. Eat that cake. Now I probably just made it so that it'll come back. God damn it.
Quote that shit.
Right? But yeah, so like that was the thing that I felt like I couldn't really do, and that's why I was like, oh, I don't really want to VTube, because I was like, not that I have any issue with it, because I don't, and I'm sure I could summon it up within me to do that if I really, really wanted to. But the vibe that I wanted for my stream, just in my mind, was not something that I could marry. So I was like, no, that's not for me. Whereas like Lamari was just like hanging out, playing video games, and like just being Lamari, and I was like, oh,
There's a chill section? I want to be there.
Right, exactly. So like that helped me recognize that the lewd tubing was a very prominent and loud slice of the cake. We'll just stick with cakes.
They have many layers.
Yes, but it was not the whole thing. And so I was like, oh shit, I can do what I want with this. Let's go.
I see. So that is quite the interpretation, that your first image of VTubing was lewd.
Oh god, yeah, because like literally I would say every VTuber that I had run into until Lamari, it was all the like ada, let me whisper something sexy in your ear, let me post something spicy on Twitter. And again, no issue with that. It's just not something that I could do and feel confident and like, yeah, I'm crushing this, you know? And especially then like with the idea that I want my channel to be chill vibes of playing video games with your friends on the couch. I'm like, I can't really do both. Not me personally. I'm sure there's somebody out there who is, and like, girl, guy, person, go off. I support you. But that was just something that I was like, I can't do that. That's not me.
But however, now that you have like your setting and how you make like a really chill area for vibing with a little scream here and there,
Yeah.
at least now you can play one trick on your viewers for, like, say, April Fools, where you do become the cringe lord for one day. They would never expect it. Just like,
No.
what the fuck happened to Subrosa? Lamari, did you infect Subrosa? What the
Right.
fuck? Like, you're just like, oh my god, cringe. It's like, do that for one day of the year and just at random intervals is a great way to just troll your audience.
God, they would think something has severely gone wrong in my life.
Or it'd be like, I infected Subrosa with the Tolk.
Right. Like, this is like alternate universe Subrosa.
Oh my god, that'd be great. Like, you entered a different dimension and it's just the alternate universe. What could have been Subrosa if left, like, unhinged?
Right, exactly.
Lore details? Someone write this down.
Write it down. Lamari, can you add that to my notes? Thanks.
That there is an alternate twin somewhere.
Yeah. And we gotta go like full Star Trek, where I had just for some reason have a goatee.
Oh my god, goatee. But instead of the prince, it's like the princess with a goatee. With a goatee.
I love the gender fuckery. Let's go. Let's
just
go
all the way. If we're gonna do the cringe lord, just go all the way.
Yes.
Oh my god. Okay, so this one's a quite long one. So, what is your strongest, weakest, and most recent improvement for your stream?
Okay. Strongest, I think my strongest suit has been being able to just like talk with chat. Like that came very naturally, both because like I don't ever shut the fuck up. But also because like when I was a disembodied voice, which is how I was referred to with the other VTubers, and featuring disembodied voice, TheSubrosa, that's all I really had, right? Was like my voice. I didn't have a visual on my screen that was like, this is me, and like something to like be hooked by and interested in. So I was from the jump, like, I'm just going to be very chatty, very stream of consciousness, and just talk. At some point, somebody is going to say something to me. And that ended up happening. And then, like, it would be so funny. Like, I remember there was like one night I was playing the Tomb Raider game, the reboot that came out in 2013, something like that. And we got into this like deep conversation about like childhood aspirations and like how parents supported or hindered that in some way. And like, just like really like going there with like, everybody in stream, and like that's always felt very natural to me. So I'd say that's like my strongest suit, is that I can just like have a conversation, let it get wild, or get deep, or whatever the hell is going to happen, and I just roll with that.
Okay.
I think kind of as far as like a growth edge for my channel, oh boy, I think it's just like kind of referring back to what I was talking about earlier, is like how slow I am to adopt new things. Like, there's so many times that I see like Lamari and Tolk just running with something, and I'm like, I want to run too. But there's just something for me personally that like I need time to like build up to doing the new thing, and like adding that into like what I'm doing. So I'd say for me that's kind of like my growth edge, is just like, just try it. Just do the thing. You want to do it, just go do it, and fuck the consequences. But I don't have that much of a chaotic entity element in me, I guess. Yeah, and then I think just kind of like long term is just kind of continuing to make sure that as I'm growing, I'm maintaining the vibe that I want, because that is something that I think about of like, okay, like in an imaginary future where well, not imaginary, hypothetical, we'll go with hypothetical, uh where I manage to get bigger, like, am I going to still be able to have like the vibes that I want? Will that still be deeply embedded in my community as like more people come in? And I hope so. We'll have to see, but yeah, I'd say those are kind of like the things that I think about when I think of like what I'm doing well, what needs improvement, and then like future directions and like thoughts about long term where I'm at if someday I somehow manage to strike it big.
And what would you say was your weakest moment?
um, I think the hardest lesson I had to learn um was don't stream if you don't feel like it. um because there were definitely times in the beginning where I would be like, okay, I said I was going to stream, so I'm going to do it, but I'm not really feeling up for it. um and then it just wouldn't be like, for me, like, I don't think people watching necessarily caught on to it because, like, hi therapist, I compartmentalize. um but I definitely was not feeling it and didn't enjoy it, and I would like go back and watch the VOD, and like I can tell because I know me, um that like I am not being authentic and that I am putting on the show to keep people entertained, but I myself am not having a good time.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that that's like the thing that like in the beginning I really struggled with. And there are still some times where like I have a hard time with like canceling stream. Like I will wait until the last possible fucking minute to cancel because I'm like, but what if my mood changes? What if I change my mind? And then it's like, oh no, it's like 15 minutes to go and I still don't feel like it. Or canceling. So sometimes I think my growth edge is like learning to just like recognize like, hey, you're not feeling it, and that's okay. You can cancel. People aren't going to be mad at you.
Right. I mean, you have two other crew members that could probably carry for the day.
Oh, easily, easily. Especially because you never fucking know when Tolk is going to stream.
That's fair. Be like, oh, is Tolk streaming today? Perfect. Everyone go there.
Yep.
Well, at least you have the chaotic entity. He will carry if need be.
Yes, absolutely. Tolk is a lot more reliable than I think people realize, as weird as that is.
That is definitely something I don't think anyone touched on, so that's good to know.
Yeah, no. I actually, it's this is gonna sound so weird. Tolk is a very grounding presence for me. Which you wouldn't necessarily think because he is constantly causing problems on purpose all the time. Um, but for me, he really reminds me of like why I'm doing this and like that I'm here to have fun and relax and it's not a big deal. Like his ability to just roll with shit is just like, oh yeah. So it's just like it's a very grounding presence for me. In ways that I don't think most people would expect, especially because he gets under my skin so easily too. So it's like, why is this dude that makes you yell, God damn it, Hulk? Like every stream, someone that you're like, calm. But
It's
true.
because
It's
of the thought of drop kicking him in the chest. It gives you that adrenaline rush of just like, I feel much better now because I'm thinking of drop kicking you.
Yeah. No, he makes me so mad, and then I'm just like so relaxed afterwards.
That's so weird. Okay.
I know.
Such an odd relationship. But yeah.
Right?
Okay, so what is your end goal?
I don't think I really have one necessarily. Like, so I, in typical TheSubrosa is moving at a slower pace than Lamari and Tolk. I think my channel was the slowest to grow. And because like I hit affiliate, oh shit, it must have been like 2 to 3 months after them. Like it took me a long time to get there. And so like I've always had to be like, don't compare yourself to other people, you're doing your own thing. And so I think in like making sure that I am doing that and keeping that mindset, I'm not setting myself up for like false expectations, because I think the second I start putting like, okay, I want to grow like this by this time and start setting goals like that, there's just so much to streaming that you can't control. Like you can't realistically say like by this time I'm going to do this.
Mm-hmm.
So I think for me my goals tend to just be more loose of like I'd like to post my schedules on Saturdays. Cool, did it, check. You know, or like I'm now getting into a habit of because where I work 8 hours a day every day at minimum. Um, in the morning when I'm having like my coffee and my breakfast, I will sit there and like get OBS pulled up, get the game pulled up, make sure everything is like ready to go, and then like write my promo tweet at the same time. So then all I have to do is hit tweet and boom, it's done. So I'm very like trying to find ways to take the work out of it for myself in a sense.
Okay.
Where I can then just like focus on just doing the stream itself. Where I need like a second person, honestly, at times where I'm just like, can you run this for me so I don't have to? I could just show up.
You're you just said like a prince. You're not used to, you know, doing the promotional stuff
Yeah.
yourself. So
Yeah, I need the help. Where's the help? Where are my wait staff?
it's like, oh, you left them in the planet that you came
Right.
from. Whoops.
Oops. Whoops.
It's like, brought the AI, check. Found a chaotic entity, check. Do I have any servants? No.
No.
But I'm sure if you ask Boo Boo kindly enough, she'll clean up your messes.
Oh my god.
And
Boo Boo jokingly refers to themselves as my simp. Like, I don't want simps. Don't stop. But it's funny because then, like, when Boo Boo is being a shithead, I'm like the other two. I cannot get Tolk and Lamari realistically to like stop being turds. They're just gonna do what they're gonna do. But all I have to do for Boo Boo is just go, "Hey, Boo Boo," and that's it. She's done. She's a cuddle. Like Boo Boo's done. They're like, okay, whatever you say.
You've trained her.
Yeah, no, Boo Boo is just like, boom. I'm okay. Whatever you want, Mom. I got you.
Because I keep bringing this up because I remember the Sims when Lamari was cooking and just leaving food around, and then Boo Boo was doing all the dishes.
Yep.
I'm just like, oh, this is a chaotic family. I love it.
Oh yeah, no.
And Tolk was clearly pissing everyone off.
Yes. God, yes. Like I think he was even bullying Boo Boo at points because there was a point where Boo Boo, like I remember in The Sims, was like, somebody is bullying me, and I'm like, is it Tolk? Is Tolk the one doing this? He's like,
Tolk?
would be totally fine the whole day, but then like left alone with Tolk, all of a sudden Boo Boo is crying in bed.
It's like, I don't feel comfortable with the entity.
Right? I'm like, God damn it, Tolk.
He's like, what? I said, how are you doing? Like, oh, did I use the voice changer again? I'm sorry. I came out looking like a demon.
I shit you not, he will enter voice chat with his voice changer on and talk to us for like 5 minutes, not realizing he has it on. And we think he has it on as like a bit. And then somebody will be like, hey, Tolk, your voice changer's on. He's like, what? Oh, sorry. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, Tolk.
When you think it's a bit, he is honestly has no idea. That's so funny.
Yep.
First time I heard it when he entered the studio, I was like, oh shit.
Yeah,
Did he wake up?
He has so many different voices too. And like there's one in particular that he does that's like higher pitch that he was doing during our Amnesia gameplay that like every time he does it I can't stop laughing. It's so stupid.
It's amusing.
Yeah, it really is.
So what do you love or enjoy from the VTuber community?
I think I just love the wholesomeness of it. Like, obviously there are probably jerks out there, and I definitely like I won't get into it because like I'm not gonna like be a gossip busybody, but there was like one streamer that I had to distance myself from just because there was a lot of toxicity there that I was like, I don't want to be part of that. Bye. But I find that overall the VTuber community is very welcoming. They're very supportive. And you know, like if you have a question about something, there's always somebody out there willing to like answer that question for you and like help you out with it. I mean, I'm thankfully like super lucky to have Lamari, who's just like on top of her shit. And like, if she doesn't know the answer to it, she's like, oh, let me look it up. I'll get back to you. And I'm like, you know, you don't have to do your day job right now, right? Like, you don't have to do this for me. But she is so sweet and so supportive of just like, yeah, I'll look into how we can do this and make it happen. And that I think has been really like freeing creatively, is just knowing that, like, you know, if you have an idea, there's probably a way to do it. It might not be exactly as you're kind of thinking about it, but like you can get a pretty damn close approximation. You just got to ask around. And like that wholesomeness and supportiveness of the community is just so sweet, and like exactly what I want for my own like personal community. Like take that and make that my community.
Okay. So it's the wholesomeness and being able to basically be whatever the hell you want as a
Yeah.
VTuber.
Yeah.
So touching on a little bit about, like, you know, doing your day job, do you ever feel like sometimes you are doing your day job while on stream?
So I actually get asked that question actually quite a bit, both like in terms of streaming and also in my personal life, because I think a lot of people, and I knew this like going into my field, because I remember having professors in undergrad who are like, yeah, people hear that I'm a psychologist and then they assume that like I do the therapy thing, but I'm actually a researcher. And so like, yeah, there is this assumption that like every interaction that I'm having with another human being, that I am sitting there like psychoanalyzing them and like,
It's like,
oh,
you check this out, you check this out, you check this
right.
out, you have this issue.
Right. And I'm like, no, like the only time I'm using my therapy skills is literally when I need to cope. It is a for me thing. I am not doing therapy on other people. So it's like I think people feel more secure though in sharing things with me because they know I'm a therapist. So they're like, oh, they're not going to be super judgmental. They're going to be chill with me, like sharing this. And sometimes I'm like, hey, not on the clock. Don't know.
God.
But then there are other times where it's like, oh, thank you for sharing that with me. And like, I'm glad you trust me enough to share. It just kind of depends on the person and the relationship that I have with them. And then just also like what they're sharing with me. So yeah, so to answer your question in a less long-winded way, I would say no, I don't feel like I am being anybody's therapist, because I am very, very, very clear with people that I am not your therapist. You are not paying me. Your insurance is not paying me. This is not by the hour. Nope.
No. But
nope.
to be fair, we, as VTubers talking to like other people, I do feel like sometimes we end up somewhat pseudo therapying other people that are just like, oh, you know, I'm having this rough day and this is what I'm experiencing, and I'm like, oh shit, I'm so sorry about that. Like sometimes
Yeah.
we are kind of pseudo therapy, but we're not like, hey, tell me your issues and I'll figure it out for you.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's just because like where I am a therapist, those are two very different things to me,
Mhm.
right? Like if I'm a therapist, my goal of providing you emotional support is to help you change and help you make that situation different. In my personal life or even as a VTuber, that's not my goal. I'm not trying to do all that.
That is a lot to
That is
try
a
to work
lot.
with.
It's a lot to try and work through with somebody. And especially just because like, I mean, I'm probably like, I'm sure the therapist mafia that's out there is probably going to get mad at me for saying this, but therapists are hypocrites. We are all super fucking hypocritical. It is a very do as I say, not as I do kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so the idea that I would do what I do as a therapist in an interpersonal interaction, whether it is the more distant like VTuber to viewer or like in my personal life, it doesn't work. They know I'm full of shit in some ways. You know, whereas like when you're my client, you think I have it all together. You think I'm a put together human being, and I'm like, LOL.
My life is falling apart.
Right, exactly. I'm like, oh boy, you don't want to hear about my week. Like my least favorite thing that my clients will do to me is ask me how my day has been.
And you're just
I'm
like, that's not what you're paying me for.
Yep,
So
I'm
let's
like,
continue.
why do you want to know? This isn't my therapy session. Go away.
This isn't my therapy.
So, I collect my therapy through getting to pet people's pets while I'm in their home.
Oh my god.
Yeah, no joke. Like I find it so wonderful that I get to pet so many dogs as part of my job. And people will be like, oh, I'm so sorry. They're like all over you. I'm like, no, this is amazing.
Don't you dare move them from me.
Exactly. I'm like, don't you dare put them in their crate. They're going to sit right here. But yeah, like it's very much like, to me, like providing emotional support or expressing empathy is not the same thing as like doing a therapeutic intervention. And I know for some people who maybe have less exposure to therapy, or like are in therapy and they feel like that's like the thing they get the most out of therapy, they're like, oh. And I'm like, no, that's not what I'm doing, trust me. I know my therapy brain when it kicks on, because I feel it. It's like a separate brain in some ways.
It's training.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like how you know, I think of it like, people who are like really good at like computer programming and stuff like that. They can play or use a program or software and not think about how it's built unless they want to. And then they can start thinking about how all that code meshes together and works. The same thing with people, where like I could, if I really wanted to sit here and psychoanalyze you based on this conversation, I probably could if I started asking the right questions. But am I going to? No, I don't want to. That's exhausting.
I could imagine.
Like carrying other people's shit, while very rewarding in my job, not something I want to do in my personal life.
It would need a lot more pets.
Exactly. You better bury me in animals.
So, just as a hypothetical, how would two therapists therapy each other?
So that's actually a thing that happens all the time. And I've had both unsuccessful experiences with it and successful experiences. So I would say the unsuccessful is when the therapist who is providing therapy to the therapist is almost treating it as if that person doesn't know what you're doing.
Like, that just sounds like a recipe for disaster.
It does. Well, because like that's the thing, is like therapists are so unfortunately aware of how they are and the way they think and where it comes from. Like, we know our shit. Whether or not we deal with it is a completely separate matter. We know our shit. And so when we're working with another therapist to like help us through that, or to process things or whatever it may be, we get so good at recognizing you just made a process comment, and I'm not, no, don't do that. Or like, you're trying to get me to reframe this thought. I seek you. So,
I hate what you're doing right now.
Yes, it almost becomes like this game where it's like, try to spot the therapy intervention when that's happening.
Oh my God.
But therapists who are treating other therapists who do it successfully are just very upfront that like, I know you know what I'm doing. We both know what is going on here. Like, let's cut the shit. And I think that like being able to just like, okay, I'm going to do a therapy thing and you're going to know I'm doing a therapy thing, but I need you to just let it happen. And then you're like, oh, fuck. Okay, fine.
So worded like that, right? Is like, you know your shit. I know your shit. We're going to do some shit. Okay. Shit.
I mean, yeah, like you think I'm joking, but there are therapists that talk like that. That was my old therapist many years ago. Like, just very upfront of like, she was like, hey, like, I know this about you and you know this about you. And I was like, yeah. She's like, we're talking about that today. And I was like, oh no. Like, so that like very just blunt upfrontness of like, this is what we're focusing on. This is how we're going to do it. Like that's how you can therapize a therapist, but it is very hard work. I personally would never want to do it, because that I don't know what this says about me, but I enjoy working more with children where I'm tricking them into it. Mm-hmm. Than like having super upfront conversations about it and being so blunt and direct about how I'm therapizing. I like them thinking we're just having fun and playing games. Like if a child's like, I liked when we played Candyland that time. Okay, cool. I'm glad you like Candyland. But I taught you about feelings and coping skills, you little turd.
Just like you're talking to Boo Boo. Hey, Boo Boo.
Exactly.
We're talking about this issue with Talk today. Oh no.
Oh no.
But you'll get candy afterwards. Oh, okay. I'll deal.
Right.
Definitely the most interesting VTuber, I would say, is one that has that therapy skill set. Definitely never thought I would run into a someone who knows therapy so quickly. I wonder what that says about me. Maybe I need some. I don't know.
I mean, I personally believe we all need some. It's just
A
how
healthy
much
dosage.
and yeah, like I mean, not to like totally deviate into this topic, although obviously I could talk about it forever, but as part of my philosophy that we are all works in progress, I feel like there are sometimes things that we need an extra set of hands and we need somebody who can be outside of ourselves to help us through that and guide us through it. And those periods will come and go. Like there are times where you don't need it, like you're fine, and then there are other times where it's like, I should probably process that thing. I'm gonna call my therapist. Like it's just again, it's not that you need to be in therapy forever and ever and ever, but once in a while, it's not a bad thing to do and check in and support. Because like I mentioned earlier, the world is a shit show. There's a lot going on out there. You deserve a little TLC. And that is like, I think one of the bravest things that a person can do is to start therapy, even when they think they don't need it. I think that is like the bravest thing that a human being can do, because offering up that vulnerability and like taking that hard look at yourself and going, okay, I want to change. That takes a lot. That right there alone is a lot, let alone then like committing and doing it.
Yeah. No, that's definitely. I could definitely see that.
Yeah.
Just a little tidbit. Could you imagine token therapy?
Oh my god, he
He's like, so what's your issue, Toke? What can we talk about today? It's like, wow.
Well, the funny thing is he's often asked me, hey, do you know what's wrong with me? And I'm like, Tolk, I'm not your therapist. I don't want to be your therapist.
Do you
I
know
love
what's
you.
wrong with you? It's such a Toke way of asking a question.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not like, hey, I have this issue. Can you walk through this with me? No. Do you know what's wrong with you? He has no idea. He has no idea.
Yeah, he has no idea.
I
don't want to know.
Such a Toke thing to say.
Yep. I love the guy. As much as he pisses me off at times and he drives me insane, I do love the guy. Like I would do anything for him. So
we love ourselves some Toke.
Yes.
Okay, so back to the VTubing community. What do you dislike about it? Clearly not the boobas.
Not the boobas. No, I appreciate and support my lewd tubers. Like fucking get that coin, man. Like if people want to pay for their thirst, I say go off, sis. Like I don't know. I'm very, like I said, very positive with sex positivity, and just like also sex workers in general deserve more support. So I'm like, yeah, do it. Fuck Twitch and its TOS. But I would say I think the only thing that I don't necessarily like about the community is less about the community and just more the process of getting into it. Because I think it's really hard to track down information for stuff. Like, I don't know how Lamari does it. Like, again, this is why I'm like so grateful that Lamari is there. Lamari being able to like have a question asked about how do I do this, and then like if she doesn't know, she's able to look it up. Like, I'm like, how the hell do you sift through all this shit? Because there's just so much information of like, if you want to do a 3D model, PNG, live 2D, this, that, the other, and I'm like, like it's almost information overload at that point. And so I feel like it's not really gatekeeping, but it's just until you're in the community, you don't really know jack shit,
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just insular in that way. Whereas I feel like if you wanted to be like, to use the term that you've been using with the others of flesh tubing,
yes.
which I'm like Lamari, where I'm like, on that one. There's so many resources to look up how to do that effectively, and like general stream resources are very easy to find. But when it comes to like VTubing, there's like an extra hoop that you got to kind of leap through. So I wish that was a little more accessible, particularly for people who are like first starting out. Because if you don't have a handy dandy AI like Lamari, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's hard. It's definitely hard to try to sift through information because there's so much, and some of it's just
so much.
Some of it's outdated. Like, so you don't even
outdated,
know if it's
or
good.
or it's conflicting, where you're like, wait, but this one source said this, and now you're telling me that. Ugh, too much.
I see. Well, yeah, I mean, Lamari lives in it because she's an AI, so she could literally just split screens and start
Yes,
multitasking.
exactly. I would be so lost without Lamari.
At least you have an AI companion.
Yeah.
So now that we've all come to terms with flesh tubing, there's actually a flesh tubing question. Is there benefits from being a VTuber versus a flesh tuber?
Yeah, so like I was saying earlier, not putting my face out there is great for my job, for what I do in the daytime when I'm being Bruce Wayne instead of Batman. Um, so I have that degree of separation. But I also think I don't know how to necessarily articulate this, but I feel like when you're a VTuber, you just have so much more freedom to build something with. Like it's like the difference between like give me a block of clay and a piece of paper and a pencil. Like there's limitations to both naturally, but I think the forms that you can create with VTubing have a lot more variety to them than the flesh tubing. I hate that term so fucking much. God damn it.
Do you get this fleshy sock that Lamari
Yes,
thinks of?
like the second she started talking about that during your interview, I was like, yes, that's what's in my brain. I
What
hate
the
it.
fuck?
I
Why
just
is
see
something
this.
beyond the flesh sock? I don't like that.
I don't know. I don't know, Loki. I wish it wasn't. Believe me, if I could remove that from my brain, I would.
See, my flesh sock has wings in it, so it's even more disturbing.
No, now that you said that, I'm just imagining fleshy wings. Like they're like feathers,
Like
but they're
bat
made out
wings?
of flesh. No. They're feathers, but they're made out of flesh.
Oh.
Oh God. Oh.
Oh, this image just gets more disturbing. It's like at the end of season 1 of the Dead End, the flesh sock's gonna be an SCP.
Yes. You're just gonna have to ask each person to build on it and make it worse.
Oh god, this
Like, how can this
monstrosity.
get worse? Let's start adding teeth on places where teeth shouldn't go.
It's like the shark with human teeth thing.
Yes.
Oh god.
But yeah, so as I was saying, God, is I see VTubing as like very freeing, and you can do a lot with it that I think you just can't do when it's just your face and you.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's at the end of the day, though, I think neither is better than the other in that sense. Like it's just all what you want to do. And if VTubing makes sense to chase after what you're looking to do it. If being a flesh tuber and a flesh sock with fleshy wings
Oh my god.
is the way you want to be, I say, you know what, you little flesh sock, you fucking get it. You're a shining diamond. You do it. You do you.
Get some bulbas in there. Oh no. I just can't. This would be the most disturbing VTuber if I ever see it.
It's probably out there somewhere. You know it is, Loki. Don't deny it.
I will not go out looking for it, but Lamari sure will find it. I'm sure she will. So.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
I'm sure she will. So if you were to start VTubing all over again, what would you change? Besides meeting me, because clearly that was a mistake.
No. Flesh tubing. The term was a mistake. You were not a mistake. You are not. And this is also where at the point where I'm like, hey, remember that part where I'm like, I'm the straight man of the outer reaches, and then this happens. Inevitably every time. But yeah, if I were to start over, I think if I could go back in time and start over, I would have just hit the ground running a little bit harder. Because like I mentioned earlier, like my first VTuber model, which like people can still see that, both like in clips and also because I have a channel point redeemed to go back in that outfit. It was so blank slate. Like it didn't really have a lot of ideas behind it, but I think all of the ideas that I did eventually settle on, like where I am now, were there. Like it was percolating, But I was just like, no, because if I do this and I don't like it, then I'll invested all this time and energy into it. And so it's just like one of those like, bitch, trust your gut. Just go for it. Just do it.
Just do
I think
it.
that's what I would do different. Yeah.
Okay. You hit the ground running.
Mm-hmm.
And you've made Lamari and Tolk as friends, and of course Boo Boo because she's usually always there. But have you made long-lasting friends while VTubing?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Like, I mean, obviously Adoracia's Boo Boo coming into my life was also like a fucking whirlwind. Like, so for context on like Boo Boo, for those that are not familiar with Boo Boo, Boo Boo is Tolk's sister-in-law, and so that's just where like randomly stumbling into my stream. And then like I want to say it was like the second or third stream that Boo Boo was watching. When we were talking on the topic of music, I was like, oh yeah, like I've never had somebody write me a song before, but I'm pretty sure I would be immediately wooed if they did. And Boo Boo literally went, bitch, bet, and wrote me a song in like 20 minutes.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So that's the kind of energy Boo Boo brings of just like, oh, you want something? Let me get it for you. Truly my first and only simp.
Simp through and through. But she's trained,
Yeah,
so
we
at
love
least
it.
at least she knows.
Yes, they are a really good bean, and I am very appreciative of Boo Boo. But yeah, so I definitely have met other people as I've been going along that I'm like, we may not necessarily be as close as like Tolk and Lamari and I are, because like we have just bonded. So I don't think there's going to be another bond that replicates that. But that doesn't mean that the other bonds that I'm forming have less merit or aren't as important to me or things like that. Like, I mean, like Lewis has been like a dream. I love him. He is so fucking funny. I'm hoping that he and I will get to start playing more games together at some point. He's trying to get me to play Fortnite because now they put Geralt in it, and I'm like, God damn it. But yeah, my fucking hyperfixations will be my undoing. But
Is Gerald
yeah, like
your
he is just
husbando?
no. As you can probably tell by my Discord icon, Yascare's my Blorbo. I'm a Joey Beatty simp through and through. It's a problem. But speaking of simping, but yeah, so it's like I met him, I met Harimi. I already had friends from another hobby that I was close with, so it's like I'm definitely forming a lot of really close relationships. And like nothing warmed my heart more because like Twitch was doing its like annual summary of your viewing habits or whatever, and Cabbage, who has not really been there super long compared to some others, I was like one of his top 4 channels, and I was like, oh my god, somebody really likes me. Oh. Like that was just so fucking touching to me that like he is there so often that I managed to make it into his top 4, which is really funny because the games that he watches, none of the games I play. Like I do not play a single one of those on stream or out of it. And I was like, oh, my heart.
So he's there for the
So,
long
yeah.
run to watch content from you.
Yeah. And like that's just like that to me right there is like such an important bond. Like even though like, I don't look at Cabbage as I do like Tolk and Lamari, but like that's still like an important core person to my channel, of like you were there from very early on, not the very beginning, but very early on, and you have remained this fucking dedicated. Like holy shit, dude. Like I can't even begin to put into words what that means to me.
Awesome. So while you're streaming, what makes you the most happy?
Just the banter that I had back and forth with my channel, honestly. Like part of the reason why like I I am so adamant about keeping Witcher Wednesday. I will not skip a Witcher stream if I can avoid it. And if I have to reschedule it to Witcher Thursday or Witcher Friday or Witcher Day, I'll do it.
At least you have it set up.
Those streams I find right? Exactly. I'm ready to go. We can do every single fucking day of the week, baby, and I'll probably still be 80 years old trying to beat that game because it's so long. But during that gameplay, I get so much interaction with my chat. Like they are just talking and talking and talking, and we just get into some really good conversations. So like my Witcher Wednesdays are so important to me because I get to have that. And then it's really cute because I've had people like in other streams where like during If Found, I think it was Blue Raven was like, I'm sorry I haven't really been talking. I've just been going through a lot of feelings about this game. And I'm like, nah, bitch, me too. Like it's okay. Because I think they know I like the banter and I like being able to talk with them. But sometimes a game just is punching you in the heart over and over and over again, and you can't words, and I understand that. Um, so yeah, I'd say that's kind of like the thing that I enjoy the most about streaming is just getting to talk to people and bantering and yeah, just forming those relationships is a lot of fun.
All right. And on that same note, what frustrates you while you're streaming?
Backseat gaming.
Oh, you've had that issue?
Oh yeah. I've had to talk with people outside of stream to be like, hey, like I know this is coming from a good place, but like please stop. Um and I think like I am a little more sensitive to that just because I even though I identify as non-binary, I still obviously am effeminate in many ways. And so I do feel like there is a degree to which people feel more comfortable being like, hey, do this to somebody who is femme presenting
Mm-hmm.
than they would like you, for example. Like I'm sure there are games that trigger that for people because like everybody always has like Dark Souls opinions.
Yeah.
And like, that's not how you do that. And it's like,
Sword and shield all the way, bro. I'm like,
right.
I'm carrying around this big ass greatsword. I'm like, well, I could
Right.
swap, but
but I'm not gonna because that's not how I want to play the game. But yeah, backseat gaming is like one thing that just it irks me so bad because so I will often like remind people very gently, hey, like I know it's coming from a good place and you want to be helpful, but unless I ask for advice, please don't give it to me. Because I think one, you're going to experience the game differently than me. So what works for you in terms of your gameplay style with this is going to be very different to like what works for me and my gameplay style. And so I don't think that that advice giving is necessarily super helpful, but also too, I think sometimes if people just like hand you the solution, it robs you that joy of figuring it out yourself, you know?
mm-hmm.
That's why it's like when I'm stuck in like a puzzle, I will sit there for fucking ever trying to puzzle it out. And like people will be like, do you want a hint? And I'm like, no. Because I commit. I commit and I want to solve it. And then if I'm like really, really deeply stuck, then I'm like, please help. Or like when we were doing Outlast, Lamari was definitely holding my brain cell for me because I was too panicked to think and couldn't read and register my environment very well. So she would just be like, okay, go around the other side of the desk to get some distance. And then when you come around, there's a vent. Just climb up on the desk. Come up on the desk. Yes, 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 yes. And I'm like, okay. But it's like, yeah, I don't know. I know it always comes from a good place when people do it for me personally. Like I know they're not doing it to be dicks.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just like, oh, that doesn't feel good. Please don't. And people are usually respectful. Like I usually don't have to tell them more than once. Very rarely do I ever have to say something a second time of like, hey, stop. Thanks.
All right. I definitely didn't think it was backseat gaming. That was
Oh no.
interesting. Yeah, no.
Oh,
I didn't
what did you think it was gonna be?
I didn't think it was going well, cuz some people are like they've said like no chatters or just being lonely. And then for you it's backseat gaming. I was like, "Oh, that is interesting." Interesting. I think it's the first issue of backseat gaming.
No, I think it's no, I yeah, no. I think the difference is that again, I don't shut the fuck up. So I can talk to no one and still keep myself entertained. Like it's lovely. I love talking to people and that is my biggest high of streaming, but I don't necessarily need it to feel like I'm having a good time. Like it doesn't make me feel bad if people are being quiet in chat. I don't care about that necessarily because I know sometimes like people are lurking or like one of my best friends she's currently studying to take a licensing exam and will have me on in the background so she can't chat because she's in the middle of a class but she's supporting my stream and she's watching.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I know they're so that's why it's like when people are silent I don't take it a certain way and it doesn't get in my head like oh nobody's watching. Like people are watching, they're just quiet and that's okay. I can carry a conversation by myself all damn day long.
Watch me.
Oh god. Right.
So are you happy with your current stream setup?
Yes and no. um I am very happy currently with my overlays. I'm delighted by my alerts. I was so happy about that because from the beginning I had always wanted to like incorporate my cats into my stream in some way.
Okay.
And it was also very important to me because Bucky, the orange cat that shows up in one of the alerts, he passed away this past July. And so I really wanted something that kept him as part of my channel, because I actually added the Be Brave from him, because he was the bravest little cat in the world. And he taught me, like, in his passing, to be brave about this. Like, it was the kindest thing that I could have done to let him go, but it was also the fucking hardest thing in the world because I had him for almost 15 years at that point. And so, like, I was like, I want to carry that idea of that. Like, it is sometimes really hard to be good and to be kind. You have to be brave to do that. So I'm amending my statement to keep his memory alive in my channel. And so I was really happy to have those alerts. So, you know, I think aesthetically looking at my stream, very pleased with it. I'm in a good spot with it. I like the design. I don't feel like I need to do too much more to it. But then when it comes to the hardware end of it, looking at you, my little laptop, I need to upgrade. And it's coming, it's happening. But I do get very frustrated at times when, like, I'm playing games that are not as well optimized as they could be, or they're just resource hogs in general, like, and then there's no getting around that even at their most optimized, and it's looking like a PowerPoint slideshow on my stream, even on potato settings.
So it looks like a crayon slideshow.
Yes, it hurts my soul, because I'm like, oh, this can't be pleasant to look at.
And everyone's like, what is happening?
Yeah, but you know, it's weird because, like, people are, like, still in it and they don't mind it. Like, they tell me it's fine, and I'm like, are you sure? Like, are you? But yeah, so hopefully once I have my shiny new gaming tower, that's going to make a difference as far as, like, you know, just having uh a little more horsepower, I guess you could say, behind the stream. And so then I feel like I can do more and feel like I'm not having, you know, 10 frames per second.
I mean, when Abyss was streaming Pokemon XD and, like, she was having internet issues, and it did look like a slideshow at times. And,
oh no!
And I was, and we it was me and Spook, a good friend of mine. We were watching it, and we're just like, ah, yes, my favorite part of Pokemon the slideshow. That's my favorite. We're just,
that's my favorite. You're just looking at the Pokedex. It's fine.
But she was in the middle of a battle, and it's like we can't even help her in the battle because, like, it's so laggy and we couldn't see anything.
Yeah,
it's like,
no.
And she's like, I need help, and I was like, we're like a whole minute behind. We're in a whole minute behind. We can't help you there. And she's just like screaming in the background. I was like, I'm dying. And that's where me and Spook were like, ah, yes, Pokemon, the slideshow, my favorite game.
The slideshow with a lot of screaming.
A lot of lagging screams.
Oh, poor thing. Oh, yeah. That sort of stuff is so frustrating. It's so frustrating. But it's stuff that you only have so much control over, too, at the same time. So it's like you kind of have to come to a place of, like, very radical acceptance.
You're like, this is shit. I'm so sorry. Like, my announcements are about to be spammed with disconnects.
Right?
It's just, yeah. So besides gaming, are there any other hobbies you do or stream said hobbies?
Yeah, so I am into tabletop role-playing games. So actually tonight I have a game that I'm running for my friends. We've been running it for 2 years now. Because I decided the 30th year of my life, I was like, I want to play tabletop again because I haven't done that since I was little. because my brother used to use me as a guinea pig back when he was playing with his friends, because his philosophy was like, if my 8-year-old little sister can't break it, then they can't. Which not a bad philosophy, honestly. But yeah, so I do that. We don't stream it. That's just something that we do privately, but I play games with them. That's kind of my primary thing. Recently, I've been getting back into bullet journaling, which is less of a hobby, I guess, per se. But it's soothing to me. It scratches my brain in a nice way.
Bullet journaling. I can't say I know what that is.
Yeah. So it's actually developed by somebody who struggles with ADHD. And it's
Then
just
I should probably do
it's probably not a bad idea.
I mean, I'm not diagnosed or anything, but I do show all the symptoms, so it's like, oh,
yeah.
maybe I should do that then.
Maybe I should. Yeah, no, it's just a very simple way of listing out the shit you got to do for a day and like keeping it organized. And it's a very minimalistic style, because I'm just trying to get back in the habit of it, because I used to go all out with it. Like I used to like have like monthly themes. Like there was one year where I did like song lyrics, so I would like take a song that I really liked and then have the lyrics on the pages, but then I would use like images and washi tape that like reflected that aesthetic of the song. So I like went ham on it, but then I just ran out of time and wasn't really using my bullet journal as a way of keeping myself on task. So I stopped using it. But I'm getting back into it now, and that's really exciting. So right now I'm just building the habit of using the journal. I'm not worrying about like aesthetics and making it look pretty right now. But yeah, it's a good way of like I can put all my work tasks and then stream tasks and then life tasks, and then I can X them off. I can migrate them, is what it's referred to when you like move it forward or backwards in time. Yeah, and so it's just a way of like keeping yourself on track. In case you hadn't noticed, I'm very type A.
I've been told.
So yeah. Tolk refers to me as the rock of the outer reaches. So I'm like, yep. I am the one herding the cats. But yeah, that's something that I'm like really into. And then I think, yeah, I'm trying to get back into reading. That's another one that I'm trying to do. Lamari is starting a book club in the outer reaches that I think is really cool, because I was like, oh yeah, like I used to do book clubs with my friends. Like we would pick a book like all together, and then we would read it, and then at the end of the month we sit down and talk about it. And so Lamar was like, oh, and then just did it. So I was like, oh, okay. Like, damn, let's go. Once again, Lamar just jumping into something, and I'm like, God damn, how do you do that? Like, so yeah, so she's helming that, and I'm hoping that'll also get me reading again more often, because I miss it.
Oh God! So wait, who is the teacher of the book club? Is it going to be Lamari or you?
Good question.
Because I could imagine the Princey TheSubrosa just being up there is like, all right, present your findings of the book to the front of the class with your little piece of paper that I will grade you harshly on.
No. I'm not like that. I mean, I like having deep discussions about books, but it doesn't have to be like that. I swear. Like, because like God. So I'm the sort of person who can't consume media without thinking about it, which is a problem. Like I have a really hard time just watching something and turning my brain off, because I like thinking about character arcs and metaphors and things like that. So like anytime I'm watching anything, I'm thinking about that shit. And like those are the conversations that I have. Hence why, like, you know, if you're ever hanging out with me, you'll probably get to listen to my Witcher discourse at least once a week.
Need to brush up on my
but,
Witcher.
You know, like, yeah, get with the lore, man. Come on, let's go. But yeah, so like I like thinking about it of like, what did this mean to you? What did you take away from it? I don't really care about like what you think the author meant by X, Y, and Z. If you think the curtains are blue and that's all it is to you, cool. If you think deeper than that about it, cool. I want to hear that. Like whatever the hell you got to say, it has value and it has merit. Even if it's just like, I liked the book. Awesome. Like that's great. What did you like about it? Like you don't have to give me a 3.5 essay, I promise. I'll do that for you.
He's like, but I'll gladly grade you on grammar though.
No. I don't like correcting people's grammar. I used to have a friend a long time ago who did that, and I'm like, stop being such a dick. You know what they meant.
All right. Excellent. uh oh, so how do you deal with haters and what's been your experience with them?
I can't say I really run into haters. I'm sure I will at some point, but I can't really think of a time in which I have run into that necessarily. I mean, I think off stream I've run into people being salty on Dead by Daylight.
Oh.
um, yeah, like you run into people who get salty. Like they're like, "Why were you tunneling me?" And it's like, I literally wasn't. I literally tried to hook anybody other than you, but you kept being in the wrong place at the wrong time, my guy. Like I would give you a love tap and then run away, and then just you were there again. At some point, I have to hook you again. I'm sorry, um, but I think just in general, dealing with haters is it's just I think my philosophy is just let them talk. Don't take it to heart. Like they don't really know you. Like what they're responding to is the idea that they have of you in their head. You
Mm.
know, like their perception of you basically. They are not talking about you. And so like even like that example of like somebody complaining that I was tunneling them. In their mind that's what was happening. That I was just seeking them out and constantly harassing them and not bothering with anybody else. Um but like that's not my understanding of it. That's not my understanding of what I was doing. And so I don't necessarily have to have this big reaction that they're having. I don't have to meet them at that level.
Mm.
And if somebody is being genuinely super toxic, because I ran into some rando who is like being super homophobic and trying to like make fun of Tolk and I for having TTV and our names on Steam. And I was
Mhm.
just like, I just made it into a joke where he's like, "Oh, I'm so gay because I have TTV in my thing," and I was like, "Yep," and he's like, "Well, I'm straight AF, so I wouldn't do that." And I'm like, "I'm sorry to hear that." Like, I'm
All the
sorry,
cool kids have TTV on them.
right? Like, I don't know. I don't view it as like I said, I think it's they're responding to their idea of you. They are not responding to who you actually are. And so I think being able to do that is really a helpful degree of separation where you don't have to let it get under your skin and you can brush it off. But it's also okay, and I do want to put this caveat out, that if somebody says something and it does get under your skin and it does make you upset, don't feel bad about that. You do not need to be like, "Oh, but I shouldn't let it." It's okay that it got under your skin. People will sometimes find your push buttons and sometimes you don't even realize it was a button for you. And that's okay. It is okay to have whatever reaction you're having, but just try to remind yourself that that's not you. They're responding to what they think you are and who they think you are, not who you actually are. And just take confidence in that and ban them. Just ban them. Blocking and banning are there for a reason. Do it.
Awesome tip. Okay, so this one's a big question.
Mhm.
So, what is your biggest struggle mentally, physically, emotionally, or financially as a VTuber?
Ooh, um, I would say physically not really much.
Okay.
Because I'm like as I'm sitting here adjusting my posture, I am somebody who's like hyper aware of how I'm sitting and like if I'm doing like the shrimp back and the gamer lean.
Shrimp back.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I have really bad lower back pains. Like I get sciatica, so I am very aware of my posture. So
Mm.
that's how I can sit on a stream for like 8 hours and like be totally fine because I am sitting upright like at all times for the most part. Like it's very rare that you'll catch me actually starting to slouch. Um, but then I think emotionally, I think it's just the balancing my day job at times. And so it's not really necessarily about the streaming itself or VTubing itself, as it is just there are times where the work that I do in my real life, air quotes around that, it can get pretty heavy. Like I'm dealing with a lot of stuff. Like I do family-based work, so it's a lot. And there are times where like I don't want to talk to another human being. I don't want to do it. I've always said that I am the introvert who presents as an extrovert. Like, people are always so shocked to find out that, like, I hate large gatherings. I don't want to go to parties and things like that. Because they're like, but you're so outgoing. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm just good at looking like it.
I'm the same way.
So
I'm the
yeah,
same way.
yeah. It's funny too, because I think once they realize that, then they stop inviting you to things. And then I don't know about you, but I get like, I want to be invited. I want to be able to say no.
Yeah, no, with me, like, constantly when everyone asks, it's like, oh, we're going to this thing. And I'm just like, okay. Like,
Yeah.
they're not like, do you want to come? Because they know the
Yeah.
answer's going to be no.
They know.
So-
Yeah, no, they know. But it's nice to be asked is the thing. Like, it's nice to still feel included, like you want me there. I just want the power to say no when I don't want to do something. And then, like, surprising people when I do show up and I'm like, hell yeah, let's go, let's do it. Because there are times when I want to do it. It's not all the time, but once in a blue moon.
It's like, hey, you want to go to a club and pay extraordinary numbers for alcohol that you can do at home and
Right?
listen to shitty music? It was like, yeah, let's do that.
Let's do it. Fuck it. Let's do it.
Let's break my bank while we're at it.
Yeah. So before I return my answer, I actually just thought of a question for you, if you don't mind.
Okay.
So knowing that you're an introvert, how do you okay, first of all, do you feel like you need to push yourself? And if so, how do you push yourself then to be, because I feel like being a streamer, you have to be able to be a little extroverted. Like, you have to be able to engage, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, being an introvert, how do you manage that for yourself? Like, making sure that you're, like, putting yourself out there enough that you're not exhausting yourself at the same time.
So the way I like explaining this, actually my wife put it the perfect way. She said that I have two different personalities. I have the IRL personality that's just very introverted and gremlin-like, that wants to stay in a corner and be alone. While I'm on stream or on stage, I take this persona of I finally got a name for it, and it is Mariachi Loki, and it is the extrovert beast that comes out and just tries to entertain as best as possible.
Yeah.
And it's like, because I'm an actor as well, I feel like it is a suit I don. It is just a part of me that I just turn on, and it just goes. And when I turn it off, I am back to being a gremlin, slouching over shrimp-like, as you said.
Shrimp back, shrimp back.
Shrimp back. Raiding the kitchen refrigerator for some sort of sustenance.
I'm just like envisioning your YouTuber model with like a blanket over his head, just like hissing when like somebody comes into the room and turns the light on. Oh, shit, sorry.
Like a vampire.
Yes.
So that's how I've been able to, I guess, categorize both of what I am, because I do become a completely different person when I don on my actual mariachi outfit. I feel like I embody a different person, but it's still me, but it's just a different mindset, I guess.
You go from Clark Kent to Superman.
Yeah, I go from being a gremlin to Mr. Entertainer.
No, I love that. So it sounds like then, like, when you're streaming, it's still like an authentic version of yourself. Like, it's still you, but it's like the elements of yourself that you are comfortable with sharing with everybody. And like want to share.
Which is why I relate more to VTube, because it can be exactly what I want to project. Meanwhile, like, when you're staring at me as a flesh tuber, like, you just I'm just like I'm just like sad and looking tired all the time. It's just shrimp, like, I love that. I don't know why I love that term, just shrimp back. Like,
yes, it's so good. It's so good. I can't take credit for it, but it is such a good term for it, because it really is the way your back just kind of curls on itself and then you're just like hunched, and the gamer lean forward.
The emoji doesn't help either, because I just imagine the shrimp emoji and just I'm just like, oh, and that thing has like a curve too.
And then like your little arms just sticking out ahead of you as you're like slapping your keyboard or controller.
Like a T-Rex.
Exactly. But yeah, so to return to the question, yeah, so I think emotionally for me, it's just that like sometimes my job can kind of burn me out with wanting to talk to people after a certain point, depending on what's going on. And then other times it's kind of like the opposite, where because I have told some of my coworkers that I stream.
Was that a
Just
mistake, or was it
no,
was okay?
no. Like they're like, wow, that's so cool. How do you do that after a full day of our job? And I'm like, honestly, it recharges me in some ways. Because it's a different thing. Like I said, my vibe is very much like I want to feel like we are just two friends like hanging out on a couch playing a video game together. Also, I apologize if my cat starts purring directly into the microphone. She is now here. Um, there it is.
Oh, there it is.
There it is. Hi, Francis. But yeah, so for me, like it recharges because it's a more like chill vibe, and it's not like I'm having to process people's feelings and work through their family dynamics and their trauma and all of that.
Yeah,
So
because they think, oh, you're doing therapy online. That sounds like a
right.
nightmare.
Right. And I'm like, no. We're not doing therapy online. Absolutely not.
Thanks to our sponsor. No, I'm kidding. We
Right.
don't.
BetterHelp. No, don't even get me started on BetterHelp. Oh my God.
Another interview about BetterHelp. We'll
Oh
see
God.
how much that helps.
Right. Jesus. But yeah, so like for me, it sometimes recharges, but there are definitely times where like I have to cancel because I just had a really hard day at work. And I need to like I'll still come into like the voice chat in our Discord and hang out there, but I can't like be up and be present and do the thing streaming wise. Cause I'm kind of similar to you in that like Rosa is me, but not. It is like my idealized self. Like if I'm putting my best foot forward, that is like who I am. So you're getting all the best parts of me. Not to say that I don't ever fuck up or make mistakes or say or do shit that I'm like, that was you could have done that different.
That was sus.
But at the same time, it is a separate self. So but then like when I'm hanging out with friends in the Discord, it's like, no, I'm just Crystal hanging out today. I'm not Rosa right now. I'm Crystal.
Okay.
And so that division is important. And then I think financially, I try to avoid making this any kind of financial burden on myself. So like all the money that I have made from subs and biddies and all that is literally going straight back into the stream. So like that's how I've paid for emotes. That's how I've paid for my overlays, for my alerts, has been through those payouts. The computer was a surprise expense. But it was one of those things that like that was my goal for 2023 was to get a gaming tower. So I'm just kind of jumping ahead and getting it at the start and then making the money back after. So it's fine. Well, it's fine.
It's fine.
It's
Well,
fine.
that's good. I'm glad. Well, at least you know that is something you wish to move forward with. So
Yeah.
that's why you went with the investment.
Yeah,
So.
like it's also for me personally too. It's not just for stream, like because I do play video games outside of stream. But I will say stream has been very good for getting through my backlog, though.
Oh, I could imagine.
Yeah,
with everyone pushing you.
Yeah, because there's so many times that I've started a game or I got a game, super hyped about it, never finished it because grad school took over.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Less said about that, the better.
Perhaps another therapy.
Yes. Are you doing therapy with me right now? Is that what's happening?
Most definitely. I am not qualified. I am a good listener, and that is all I'm good at.
Hey man, it's a start. No, I'm kidding.
Oh God. I don't know about all that. I have been told I could be a good therapist, mainly because I listen a lot. But I'm like,
yeah.
I don't know if you want to listen to my rebuttal when I say back.
Well, most of the time, that's the thing. They don't want to hear what you have to say. Trust me.
Oh, so if it's just listening, yeah, I got the qualification, I guess.
Yeah, no, they I would say most clients don't want to hear what you have to say. Like they don't want to hear it because they know it. Like that's the thing is deep down you are saying nothing they don't already know. You're just externalizing it for them. So like my personal favorite is when they start telling me that they'll be in situations and then they're like, but then I heard you in the back of my mind saying blah blah blah. And I'm like, ha,
Aha!
on your shoulder.
I live rent free.
Mm-hmm. So it's like they just make me their inner voice that was always there, but it's just easier to externalize it to me.
Oh, I see. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. So we are approaching near the end. So my last question for you is, what are your tips for newbies?
I think honestly the same thing I would have told myself if I could go back in time and do it again is just do it. Just do it.
Make
Like
content.
like just do whatever you are happy doing, whatever you have as an idea, approach it, pursue it. You are going to be so happy that you just went for it. Because if you get too in your head about it and think like, oh, I can't really do that, or like, oh, but what if people don't like it? People are going to like you liking it even if they don't actually like the thing that it is. Like, seeing somebody having fun and enjoying themselves, that right there is what people want to watch. So if you're concerned about what other people are going to think about it, trust me, they're going to want to see you having fun. Because like, again, like I think I'm kind of the mad one out of the three of us. Like, I'm the most prone to getting angry, but my
okay.
anger is never a genuine pissed off rage. Like, I am never to the point where I'm gonna like hurl a controller or break my mouse or keyboard or anything like that. Like, my anger is very playful in that regard. Like, I come down from it very quickly. So it's just more, I'm passionate. That's the word I use for it. I'm just passionate.
I'm passionate. Prone to rage.
Yeah, it's fine. No. But that's the thing, is like, if I were genuinely getting that angry and like, being like, this motherfucker, blah, 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 nobody would want to sit and watch that. Like, it's funny for a little bit, but it stops being funny real fast. Like, that kind of toxicity just isn't sustainable, and it's not healthy either. So I think for all the newbies out there, or people who are curious or thinking, hey, maybe I want to try this, just go with what your heart is telling you want to do, and just try it out, see how it feels. And who knows, you might hit it first mark, or you might be like, okay, this is definitely a start, and here's a foundation, and build on it like I did, where it's like, okay, like Lamari just managed to give me gender euphoria with my VTuber model. Where else can I take this? So yeah, so just do it. Just trust yourself and just do it.
Yeah, so if you ever wake up one day from a slumbering rouse and you're just like, you know what, today I want to make a podcast. About what? VTubers. Start off and then we'll move from there. And that's literally how it happened.
Hell yeah. I love that. I love that.
Okay, so do you have any last questions for me? Because it looks like the skeleton crew has fixed up your ship and Lamari's back and Tolka's doing Tolky things.
Oh god.
He's opening up a portal for you to return back to space.
I just want to say that anything that he broke or destroyed is not going to be on my tab. That's all I can throw out there. But no, I mean, I feel like you answered my question that I was curious about for you, of like, is your VTuber model you, or like a separate character? And you answered that beautifully, and I'm glad I asked.
All right. Well, thank you very much, TheSubrosa, for being here on the show. Where can people find you? What are your plugs?
Yeah, so I'm obviously on Twitch. I am just TheSubrosa there, and then I am Subroasted on Twitter because TheSubrosa was already taken.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, it hurt, and I was just like, I don't want to like put TTV at the end of it, so I'm Subroasted. And yeah, you can also find us on the Discord that we have, the Outer Reaches, where you can join and hang out and voice chats with us, share memes and silly videos and pet pictures, and it's a good wholesome time. Highly recommend. 11 out of 10. I'm not biased at all.
All right. Well, thank you very much once again, TheSubrosa, for your time being here. And if you have anyone else that we should interview, please let them know that my seat is always open, and I will gladly have them on the show.
I will definitely bully somebody into it.
Hell yeah. Let's put them on the hot seat, see what they say. And that's it for this segment, everyone. And, well, I'll see you all in the next one. Adios.